Well, hey there, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of the Sarah Berry Show podcast. You guys are in for another real treat today. In case you haven't listened, you want to go back and hear my friend Millie Barra. She was back on podcast episode number 9, I believe it was. And we came to you with our first ever collaboration talking about mindfulness. And we could talk for days, and I just feel like we just began to scratch the surface. So I invited Millie back for a second time, and she probably doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to just keep dragging her back on here because so much of what we've talked about, both on the podcast and then just in our meetings together, is so relevant to what's happening in today's day. And you know that I go very heavy on the business side of things or being an entrepreneur in this podcast. But if we were really to peel back all of the layers, we all know that there is such an overlap with everything that we do, especially when you are a female and a mom running a business, especially from homes. There's just so many layers to that. And my friend Millie comes packing a big punch with lots of really useful tips that we can do to just try. I'm not going to say balance. I don't know if I really even believe that that's possible, but comes with packing a pretty powerful punch about how to manage it all and navigate it without absolutely losing your marbles in the process. So anyway, I want to welcome back my friend Millie Barra. She is amazing. Like I said, go back and listen to the first episode of she and I together if you have not done that. But we have a really fun topic that we're going to touch on. And I don't know, maybe if fun is the word, actually. It's touchy. It's and it's we're recording this on November 2nd. So I want to welcome my friend Millie back. Millie, welcome to the Sarah Berry Show. Thank you so much for coming back and hanging out with me today.
Well, I'm happy to be here, Sarah. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. You know, we can always talk for hours on end about anything and
Yes.
everything. So thank you for having me back. And yes, go back and listen to that last podcast that we did together. But for those of you who maybe are new here and don't know who I am, my name's Millie, and I am a holistic wellness coach, and I help working moms who are stuck in the juggling act between work and home, help them lower their anxiety and their emotional overwhelm so that they can have more overall alignment throughout their life. And really, I come from the space that we are not meant to survive in this life. And I think so often we as women feel like we're just stuck in that survival mode, and that this is as good as it's going to get. And it's not. We really are meant to thrive in our life in all areas. It's not always going to be perfect in every area, but we're definitely supposed to come from a space where we feel like we enjoy it. I mean, we have one life to live. So we want to really, that's what I help my clients do is work towards really striving to live this life the way they want to on their terms so that they're not feeling so weighted down by the emotional overwhelm.
Yeah, that sounds like an easy job, Millie. Sounds like that's jump in there and and get it done really easily. So I brought Millie on here, and I haven't even really gone into depth with this yet. But Millie, like I said, it is November 2nd, and I saw my first holiday commercial last night. Full on Santa hats. There was Christmas music, and I love the holidays. I do. I love all the things that come with it. Most things, I shouldn't say all things, but I am always amazed with how much earlier it starts. In fact, 2 nights ago when we were out trick-or-treating, we were already seeing Christmas trees up. And I think that's great. If you were a Christmas lover, that's amazing. Decorate in April if you want. That doesn't bother me. It's just kind of all the stuff that comes along with the holidays that can sometimes not be so fun. And so, of course, I knocked on Millie's door and I said, we have to start bringing this topic up. I want to discuss this. I want to talk about what comes along with the holidays. You know, I'm in a product-based business. Maybe for those of you that are new here, I have my toes in lots of ponds at the moment. I do handmade products, I do gifts, I'm now doing this podcast, I have a website. There's lots of balls that I have in the air in business, which really just translates over to real life. So I start to feel the pressure about October 1st in terms of just the holiday race. But the world that we're living in right now, especially in the middle of a pandemic, has put even more pressure. I feel like to shop early, buy early, plan, make sure everything's early. And so I don't know about you, Millie, but the temperature of people that I interact with on a daily basis feels like it's already up much sooner than it is in past years. Is that what you're finding with clients that you're working with and in your line of work?
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's like we throw on the costumes and then we rip them off, and it's like the mad dash to the finish line of the end of this year.
Yeah,
And it's almost like we anticipate, like there's this lead anticipation runway of like to the holidays, right? Because we all look forward to it. I
yeah,
mean, it is such a great time with memories from, the past, but it also can come with some heaviness too, for a couple of reasons. One, especially if you're in a colder climate area. So there is the shift of the seasons, and there really is something to the fact that you are receiving less sunlight. There's
mhm,
actually a condition called SAD, seasonal affecting disorder, which a lot of people are affected by, where,
yeah,
during the summertime, everybody feels a little bit more uppity, right? You're in the
yeah,
sun, you're out, it's warmer versus
yeah.
the winter time, fall, winter, when you're going into more of a hibernation state. However, it seems to be a time where things actually end up speeding up when in nature it naturally wants to slow down, right?
So I have to, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have to stop you right there. That is so interesting. Millie and I off camera, I don't know, a week or so ago, we're talking about that. And I guess I had not put a lot of thought to that or even realized when you said tell them what you told me, that we are like the only
We are
animal.
the only species
Yeah.
that does not follow the trends of the season, in the sense that during the colder seasons, most creatures, animals, and things are preparing for winter, for a hibernation or a slowing down period. Whereas we, kids are in school, things are hyping up, the holidays are happening, we're
Yeah.
rush, 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 go, 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 got to meet the end year goals, whether it's in a business with,
Mhm.
production or hitting a certain dollar amount. So we had this push. And so internally, our body is instinctively going to be like hitting some resistance unknowingly to you, so
Yeah.
that it's like, no, I really want to slow down. I
Yeah.
really need to rest.
Yeah.
And it's hard in this world we live in to honor that. But when you do honor that, it actually helps you have the energy and the well-being to push you harder later on when you're actually needing it. So, that's something to take into consideration, along with the fact that just the demands of what kind of comes with the season, with the
Yeah.
holidays,
Yeah.
brings. But there's actually something physically going on that oftentimes brings on kind of this funk or this emotional overwhelm that you may be feeling.
Yeah. And I'm obviously, if you've known me in any capacity, you know that I'm a very heart-led person. And what I feel like is important, and I sense a lot of the feelings of people around me. But I guess I love the idea that there's actual science behind this. There's, like you said, it's our bodies are actually wired to follow the seasons, just like other animals in the animal kingdom. After all, that's what we are. And I just think it's something that gets discounted so easily, that again, and it's so trendy right now to say rest and self-care and all those things. But oh boy, I think if there's any time that should come more into focus, I think it starts now. Don't you agree?
I completely agree. And and the thing is, as a mom, as a female
Mhm.
role in your household, I mean, you're setting the trend for the temperature for your entire house.
Yeah.
For a long time, I tried to push away that responsibility because it felt very heavy to me.
Yeah.
But I realized, no, like, I really, my well-being as the mom in the household really affects everything else. And so oftentimes, if we tune into our kids are following those trends too, but they're ignoring it because they see what's going on from mom and dad, or, your partner, and they're going, oh, it's time to keep going. Okay, we're going to keep going in this and this, and we need more and more
Yeah.
and more. And so it's like everybody ends up this big old ball of like just everything's kind of a little off topsy-turvy
Yeah.
because everybody's feeling this momentum. When
Hmm.
really everybody's wanting to slow down. I mean, because if you really sat down and asked your kids, I mean, yes, there is a lot of marketing out there about gifts and
Right.
what they have to have. Again, this is programming that is outside being,
Oh, yes.
projected into you. But if you
Yeah.
really stripped all that stuff away and really asked what they're wanting, they're probably just really wanting some quality time with you.
Hmm.
They're not,
The
and they're
simple
not
things.
necessarily needing the new latest game or toy or things like that. I mean, yeah, that's all great, but really when you
So
they're
Millie,
wanting
you
that
mean,
emotional connection.
yeah. So you mean like the Hallmark film crew is not going to show up in my kitchen and film like the perfect hot chocolate afternoon with my children? You mean it doesn't have to be that? It doesn't have to
Yeah,
be
right.
perfect?
No, they just want to snuggle up and watch movies or
Yeah.
play a board game or, whatever it may be. And that's my biggest thing is trying to help women recognize that they can actually slow down.
Yeah.
They can tune into what really feels good to them because, right, oftentimes there's a lot of expectations put
Yeah.
on society, put on ourselves, things that we experience as our own children that we're trying to
Mhm.
connect back to that feeling,
Yeah.
right? Because all of our, I mean, really, when it comes down to all of our driving force for why we do things
Hmm.
is to get to a certain feeling,
Yeah.
whether it's in your
So,
business or in your relationships or in your own emotional well-being. It's all a driving force is your emotions and how you want to feel.
so I want to touch on that because I think there is so much to be said, and I would venture, I don't want to paint with a wide brush. You hear me say that a lot, but tradition, it feels like, I think there's tradition woven into even a random Tuesday in a July. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like the concept of tradition really floats to the top during this time of the season.
Mhm.
And I want to touch on that a little bit because you said feelings. And when you say the word tradition and feelings, I feel like sometimes it's the same thing because a tradition brings up a lot of those feelings and those memories of things that used to be or have happened before. I want to touch on that a little bit and talk about the link between traditions and what it makes you feel like. And I mean, not always good.
Right.
Yeah. So,
I was just going to say that there's two sides to this. One, it's the traditions that obviously you growing up, you really loved having certain traditions. Like one for me, we actually celebrated Christmas on Christmas Eve. Like that was our thing. We're a
yeah,
first responder family. And so oftentimes dad was working on, Christmas. So we
yeah,
planned accordingly, would do Christmas Eve. And that was our tradition. So for me, like that was a really big deal. And even now going with my own children, I make a big deal out of Christmas Eve. But basically, it's because it's connecting you to how you felt. Like all of us have an inner child in us, right? Even though we're all grown, but we are shaped and created by our life experiences.
mhm,
And in those experiences, we store those emotions, good, bad, or ugly. We store them within our body. And so later on, as we grow up, we're trying to connect either back to that feeling or we're trying to recreate something because we don't want to feel those feelings. So when I was saying like it's two-sided, there's the good ones where you have those happy family traditions that you are wanting to continue with your current family,
yeah,
or there's things that you wish would have been different as growing up
yeah. So
and you
you
aren't
mean
wanting to recreate it. And
we don't,
so you change those traditions or you want to feel something, or that's why you have a heaviness during the holiday season. Why
mhm,
you're like, I don't understand why I'm feeling irritable. I don't
yeah,
understand why am I so triggered by this? And why am I angry? Like this is supposed to be a happy time. Why am I so, because it's re-triggering
mhm,
those feelings, those that you experience that are stored in your memory. We call it like cell memory. Your body
yeah.
remembers these things unknowingly.
So how does it store it? What does it actually do when it's holding something? Kind of walk us through the physicality of a stored emotion.
So basically, we are all energetic people. We are all made up of energy. Like 99.9% of everything on this earth is made up of energy.
Yeah,
Okay. And so emotions are energy in motion. That's all emotion is.
I love
It-
that. I write that down every time because I think that is emotions are energy in motion.
And what happens is when you experience them, right, you can feel them. They come into your body. You feel it. So if it's a really happy, joyous, right, it comes into your body, it fills you up with joy, happy. You may have a physical response where you're laughing, smiling, things like that. Okay. They hold the highest vibration, like love, joy, gratitude. Are, and this is scientifically proven, where they are able to actually pick this up. And it's the same thing if you were to walk into a room, right? Like you walk into a
Right.
party and maybe
Yeah.
you weren't feeling that great. And you walk in and you're like, hey, I think I'm feeling better because everybody's energy is helping raise your vibration.
That's
Versus if you were
interesting.
to walk in a room full of people who are sad and upset or grieving or shaming themselves, what does it make you feel? It makes you feel yucky, right?
Down. Yeah.
It brings you
Yep.
down.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is this energy, this emotion, energy, emotion comes into your body. And there's two things that can happen. Oftentimes when it's a higher vibration, it helps raise your vibration and you feel great and you're able to process it normally. But the emotions that are of a lower vibration, anger, frustration, sadness, shame, guilt, self-doubt, they lower your vibration
Mm-hmm.
in your body. And what can happen is they can get stuck in your body. So these, again, it's something we can't see, just
Yeah.
like we can't see the wind, but it has a direct effect on us. And it gets stuck in our body and it can lodge in different places and it
Interesting.
stays stored there. And it can
Interesting.
start manifesting as physical dis-ease, whether it's physical pain, emotional, I don't want to say instability, but emotional burdens where you're having anxiety, depression,
Yeah.
PTSD, overwhelm, maybe sleeping issues, and it stays stored there. So then what happens is holidays roll around. So let's say
Mm-hmm.
you stored a trapped emotion of sadness from when you were 5 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and somebody yelled at you on Christmas morning
Mm-hmm.
because maybe you were doing something you shouldn't be doing, or maybe you were peeking underneath the Christmas tree and you got in trouble. And
Yeah.
so instantly you feel that emotion of sadness and it stores in your body. So then when Christmas comes around,
Yeah.
just the idea of Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
even though now as, adult Millie, you don't remember that event, but your body does.
Interesting.
And so it re-triggers that emotion. And then you start feeling that in your body because your body starts vibrating at that emotion.
Yeah. So does that mean we always have to feel that way when we peek under the tree? Because I really need to know what's in that cute wrapped box. I really need to know what that is. So walk us through some practical things when you start. First of all, I think a bigger part of the battle is when you become conscious of those feelings and,
Right.
ooh, I wonder why this makes me feel this way. So I guess walk us through something like that when we all have them, good or bad, exciting, sad, it doesn't matter. Kind of walk us through what that feels like.
Right. Well, and the thing is, it's really key of just being mindful. And again, that's about slowing down. I mean,
Yeah.
going back to the whole fact that we are in a fast-paced society where we have been taught to kind of just stuff, ignore, keep moving forward.
Mhm.
No, I'm not going to feel it. No, you're not supposed to cry, all
Yeah.
these programming things where we're not supposed to feel. And I think when you start noticing like, ooh, I'm feeling a little discomfort in my body, I'm feeling a little something that this doesn't feel like me, is you just
Mhm.
kind of have to slow down. And first of all, one thing I learned from a mentor of mine is just go, that's interesting. Because sometimes when you start mulling of like, why am I feeling like this? Like, where is
Yeah.
this coming from? Like you actually end up making something bigger than it
Yeah.
really needs to be, when in reality your body's just going through the motions. It's like,
Mhm.
I'm just signaling that this is still here. Those are all warning signs that there's probably some healing that needs to be done.
That's interesting that you said that because do you listen to Simon Sinek?
I don't.
Oh, he's amazing. He's had TED Talks and he's a leadership speaker and motivational. And I'm I'm a sucker for all of those things, but he is really interesting because he said, I think it was probably a podcast that I was listening to. He travels all over and speaks on stages. And he said he got to where he would get so worked up and so nervous before he would go on stage. And someone would, inevitably say, "Are you okay?" And he'd say, "Oh gosh, I'm really nervous. I'm really nervous." And he said and he had done it hundreds of times and he could not shake that feeling. And somebody told him once to start saying, "I'm really excited" when
Right.
you're nervous. And he said, of course, the first few times he was still just really nervous and he
Right.
still is, even though he's a veteran speaker, but he has changed it around to start saying, "I'm just really excited." And he said it changed the whole trajectory of those moments for him leading up to speaking in front of people on a stage. And I thought that is so interesting even just the words we say, how you
Mhm.
can reprogram a feeling that's been there and you still have it, but your mind tells you now that you're excited
Right.
instead of nervous. So
Exactly, because your inner mind does
mm,
not know what is happening in the present or happening in the past. It
yeah.
has no concept of time.
Hmm.
So it may still think that, oh, the Christmas tree is going up, or oh, it's Thanksgiving, and then it takes you back
Yeah.
to a horrible family fight, maybe that happened over Thanksgiving dinner. And
Yeah.
so it doesn't know the difference of what isn't what happened, or even
Mhm.
what's necessarily real or not real, right? So
Right.
that's where you know, you said Simon, right? Was his name?
Simon Sinek. I'll tag
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
perfect. So when he says, okay, instead of saying, I'm really nervous, I'm
Mhm.
excited, because that's the other thing is the subconscious mind can't tell the difference between joy and fear.
Right.
It's the same, it can oftentimes has the same response
Isn't
sometimes,
that crazy?
and you're just rephrasing it
Yeah.
and I don't want to say tricking, but you're training your brain to like, no, this is how I want to feel. So
Yeah.
that's what's really important. And that's why I say use the word interesting, because you don't want to spend too much time mulling it over. But that is your warning sign
Mhm.
that, hey, there may be something to this.
Mhm.
Okay, whether you want to look into it more, but that is your, like, there may be some healing that needs to be happening, because
Yeah.
reality, we are shaped from the experiences.
Mhm.
And sometimes I throw out the word trauma, which sometimes can ruffle people's feathers, because when they think trauma, they think something very horrific, right?
Right. Right.
But really, our mind interprets trauma as simple as a parent who is emotionally unavailable.
Wow.
So to a child, that is trauma.
Interesting.
And so when I say people like take a look at like what's happened in your life, and maybe needs to be some healing or some
Right.
trauma work that needs to be done,
Mhm.
or connecting with your inner child and healing that inner child. People are
Mhm.
like, "Oh no, like my life's great. Like I don't have anything, my life's not
Yeah.
horrific." But again, it's your life experience, and it's how you have perceived and interpreted those life experiences
Yeah.
that create that emotional baggage that we carry
So
on.
is eating extra frosted Christmas cookies a good strategy? Because that
That's a whole nother topic
that
around
seems
food
to
and
be
emotions.
my go-to from about Thanksgiving on. It's like, we'll just have another cookie. Yeah, cookies for breakfast. Absolutely, do it.
Okay, so
So,
Sarah, let's talk about this then. I'm gonna put you in the hot seat for a second.
okay. Oh
Go
boy.
back to your childhood, and I want you to go back to maybe your first experience when you were having Christmas cookies.
Yeah,
So think about, go back to there.
it was
Can you
wonderful.
can you think about how did you feel?
Like happiness, just absolute bliss. As a child, of course, Christmas cookies are awesome.
Right? You're
Yeah.
decorating them with
Yeah.
mom or dad,
Yeah.
and everybody's gathered, everybody's happy.
Yeah.
So there's two things with that. Basically, you are infusing that cookie
Mm-hmm.
with those emotions.
Mm.
You have infused that food with those emotions that you were feeling.
Interesting. Very
And
interesting.
so when you go to eat those things again,
Yeah.
it triggers those emotions that are within you. But when in reality, when we strip it away, it's just flour and sugar and
Yeah.
lots of sugar and
Yeah.
everything else. But it
Yeah.
it takes you back to that. It takes you back to that, because feeling in those, and that's what you want. So perhaps during the holidays, that's why you want to go to that, because maybe you're feeling a
Yeah.
little overwhelmed and anxious because it's rush, 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 go, go, go.
Mhm.
And you're like, oh, I just need to take a minute. So you're reaching for something outside yourself.
Yeah.
So
That's
my
so
whole goal is to help women learn that they don't have to reach outside of themselves, that really everything they need to feel more stable, to feel emotionally strong is
mhm.
within them. And it's
Okay.
about
So
reconnecting with that.
I'm going to ask you to break that down. So, and I like practical. I like, everybody likes 3 steps, and I
Right.
know it's way more complicated than that, but today give us a couple of things that when we're faced with wanting to hit someone with a shopping cart while we're strolling
Right.
strolling through holiday shopping, or realizing that you have 3 commitments and they all overlap on the same Thursday night and they're all holiday related, or companies coming, oh my gosh, my house, what do I
Mhm.
do? Can you give us a couple of really practical things that we can do that might help, not make it go away, but mitigate those feelings, or how to handle and get through the not, I don't want to say get through the holidays, enjoy the holidays again, and not have it come with this looming dark cloud of, oh my gosh, how am I going to make it?
Yeah. I think one really big thing is you need to make sure, and this goes whether it's the holidays or not, you
Hmm.
need to prioritize yourself, mamas, like your needs,
Yeah.
and make sure that you are doing well. Because one thing that I've learned through my own healing journey over the course of the last 5 years is like, if I'm not doing well, nobody else is doing well.
Hmm.
And really, we give so much out. We need to make sure that we are giving of ourselves as well. And
Yeah.
sometimes we search for exterior things to do this, but really we need to ask our souls, like, what do we really need? Do we need 5 minutes just to pause, take a
Hmm.
breath, maybe go find a quiet corner?
Yeah.
My go-to is like, I'll pop in a guided meditation or some relaxing music, and I'll just like close my eyes for 5 minutes and do
Hmm.
breath work. Do you just need to find a comfy chair and sit with a cup of coffee?
Hmm.
Something that makes you happy, because we're all recovering people pleasers. Something that makes you happy is something you need to do. But in that moment when you're actually getting triggered, right? Because these are
Hmm.
basically triggers,
Right.
whether it's somebody cutting you off as you're driving, or you're stuck in line and something's happening at the cash register, or your kids are having a fit. Those are
Yeah.
all triggers that are triggering something within you. So really, I think just taking a second, taking a couple deep breaths, and again, not we're not going to
I
hyperventilate.
was gonna say, mine usually involve a brown paper bag. Is that the kind of
Right.
breath
And
work
that's
that
oftentimes where we go to, because then we're spiraling into almost a borderline panic attack, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
we feel our body temperature rise. We feel just that ball of energy that's just racing inside of us. And we just need to go back to our breath a lot of times. And again, not from the shoulder, we're not hyperventilating, but really just stop. And I mean, I've done this in the car with my kids having a fit in the background. I have a 6-year-old and 8-year-old, and lately they love to argue and fight with each other in
Oh
the back
boy.
seat. So I've even tried to do this where I just take those 3 breaths, and that
Yeah.
helps lower your parasympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight,
Hmm.
and connect to your breath. And then really ask yourself, okay, what am I feeling? Because initially I say, well, I'm angry, or I'm really pissed off, or,
Hmm.
I'm sad or frustrated or whatever. You're going to give an initial one, but
Right.
oftentimes that's just the tipping point. Like
Yeah.
that's the red light blinking. And really
Yeah.
there's something underneath, right? My kids are having a tantrum. They're not listening to me. I've asked them to be quiet like 5 million times, and they're not listening to me. And I'm really angry and mad at them right now.
You
But
mean
really, what's at the root of it?
I'm not a bad mom and I'm terrible and I'm raising heathens? Is that not part of the
Right.
story? Or
And oftentimes it's no, you're frustrated because they're not validating you. They're
yeah.
not listening to you.
Hmm.
And this makes you sad because you don't feel like your worth is important
Hmm.
enough for them to listen.
Yeah.
So really identify. And really also the other thing too, because we're around a lot of people around the holidays,
Hmm.
and the majority of us women are more empathic. And what I mean by that is we tend to absorb things from other people. We absorb their other energy. We can pick up on how they're feeling. And
Yeah.
so sometimes the question is this mine, or is this somebody else's?
Hmm.
Is this really my emotion that I'm feeling, or am I picking this up from the crowds of people, or even my children or my husband in my home?
Just call me Sarah Sponge Bearing here. You just
So
described exactly what I go through. Like you said, walking into a room, it's interesting how you can feel what's
Mhm.
happening, almost feel.
Right.
And you could walk me in blindfolded and I could probably feel what's happening.
Right. So,
Yeah.
an action step for that is really holding the intention again, because the power of our mind
Hmm.
is way stronger than we give credit for, but really holding the intention. What is mine, and what is theirs.
Yeah.
I am only going to allow my energy in, and I'm going to keep everyone else's out. And that doesn't mean that you love anybody less, or you're being insensitive
Sure.
or anything
Right.
like that.
Right.
you're again just setting these healthy boundaries, and you can set energetic boundaries too of
Mhm.
this is mine, and so when you have those triggers in those moments where you're frustrated, go back to your breath, say that's interesting,
Mhm.
and just go, okay, what am I really feeling? And then ask yourself, am I hungry? Am I tired?
Yeah.
Does my body need something else right now? Does it not need to keep pushing,
Mhm.
and really figure out, is this due to a human need? Am I needing something where I just need to sit and be quiet? I need to feed myself. I need, whatever it may be. Or is there something else? And then if you want, you can journal about it to help process it
Mhm.
out. One thing I do in the moment, because oftentimes I can't just sit and journal, is I'll take my 3 deep breaths. I'll go, okay, feeling frustrated, right? And the thing is we don't want that to now create a new vibrational frequency that gets stuck in your body. So we're going
Right.
to go, okay, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling irritated, and I'm just going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to release and delete all frustration from the past, present, and future now.
Mhm.
I'm just going to let it pass through me.
Interesting.
And it's really interesting when you start practicing this and implementing this, you're like, yeah, I actually do feel better. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really not that big of a deal. Yeah, that's really their stuff. That's not my stuff.
Well, and that's such an important point, because if we were really to get serious here, girls, for just a minute, who puts all the pressure on? Who?
Yeah.
We do. We do it to ourselves a lot of times. And like you said, there's a lot of external things, every other
Mhm.
commercial on television and all, we can blame a lot of that. And it's a real thing. I'm not trying to discount that, but we get to decide what we let in or out. And I think
Yeah.
99% of the time, at least in my own experience, it's me that
Right.
is expecting that Hallmark movie crew to come through and see how perfect our holiday is. And the truth is, it's perfect for us, but it might not be TV worthy, and that's okay too. So I think, a lot of times we have those expectations and then they spill over onto everybody else when they're not meeting them. Well, why didn't they bring the fruit cake? And why didn't
Mhm.
they? And nobody likes fruit cake. I don't even know
Yeah.
why I said that, but um, it's almost like you got to kind of check yourself a little bit too.
Right.
You can't blame it all on everything else going on around you. You're very right in saying it starts with us. It starts here.
Well, and the other thing too is one thing I'm making sure I'm doing better about too is asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Oh, the
Sarah
H
mentioned
word,
something
the
before we
H
hopped on
word.
here. We talked about, she saw somewhere on Instagram about the November,
Oh, yes.
learning to say no to certain things and not
Yeah.
putting too much on your plate, but also like the people around us who really do want to help us and have the well-being is they
Mhm.
can't read our minds.
Yeah.
And so if you do have an expectation on how you're wanting something to be like or how you want to feel, like maybe set that expectation, and verbalize that expectation coming from a space of love, not like you should have done this, I'm
Yeah.
angry because I wanted, well, how are they supposed to know how you want something to feel?
Yeah.
People can't read our minds. And really, the other thing too, and I really challenge a lot of you guys, maybe before we really get into the deep dive into being in the holidays, is maybe
Mhm.
take a second and journal on how do you really want it to feel?
Yeah.
And hold that intention on how you want it to feel and look like.
Mhm.
And then maybe sit down at the dinner table with your kids and your husband or your partner and ask what, like, explain that, and then maybe ask them, what did they want it to feel? I mean, it's a really great learning experience for our children
It
to be
is.
able to be more introspective and go within and taking it off of the more
Yeah.
materialistic thing about what are we really wanting to feel. And maybe by holding that sacred space and that intention, then
Mhm.
you're putting that out there of that is our goal of what we're wanting to do. And so you kind of have that as a compass to
Mhm.
guide you through the holidays.
And I don't know about you, Millie, but when you ask that question, I am always amazed at how much simpler, especially
Mhm.
kids, want it to be. They
Yeah.
they are precious people that we should be going to them and modeling after what they're doing. They take joy in the simplest things, and do they care if the matching paper wraps or match if the wrapping paper matches the ornaments on the tree this year? Heck no, they don't
Yeah.
care. They probably don't even notice when you do that, so,
Yeah.
and not to diminish that, I'm all about beautiful. I mean, I'm
Right.
in that line of work, but it's always amazing to me how much simpler they actually really kind of want it to be. So
Well, and I think too, the important thing is to remember to tune in to what feels good and what brings
mhm.
you joy.
Yeah,
And for some people it is, they really find a lot of joy in the wrapping, and that is great. I am not that
yeah,
person. But really tuning into what brings you to those emotions that will keep you
yeah.
higher up on that frequency scale. And again, that would be finding things that bring you joy and make you happy and gratitude and things like that versus the things that are going to be pulling you down that you're dreading to
Yeah,
have to do because you think that is what the expectation is.
yeah.
So by verbalizing, again, having those conversations,
Hmm.
which can be hard,
Well,
I know.
I know it's easier said than done, but you know what I love about you, Millie, is you always give us, there's not one right answer. And I don't know about everybody that's listening to this right now, but isn't that a relief just to know that it doesn't have to be just one way, that
Right,
you get to decide you, and I love the word temperature, you get to set the temperature, you get to plot your own path here as we go through the holidays. And
right.
you know what? Even some of the funk that comes along with it is even commercialized. You know, we're
Yeah.
even talking about it on commercials about the holiday race and all those things. And so, separate from that a little bit the best that you can. Enjoy. You guys, I hope everybody enjoys the holidays. Keep it simple. Gifts don't have to always be in packages. There's so many different ways that you can give of yourself and your time. And let's just be honest, we need to connect more now than ever.
Yeah.
And maybe it means hot cocoa at your neighbor's house this year or something simple like that. And what that does for your emotions and your feelings and making you feel happy and brings joy comes in so many different ways. So I wish that for all of you this holiday. But if you're like I am, I don't ever get enough of Millie. We love to sit and talk. We could go for days, but I was excited to hear that she is doing something special this season for the holidays. And I want you all to go and sign up. I'm going to be there. I think I'm in the group. I know that I'm in the private group, but Millie, I want you to talk about what you have coming here in just a couple of short weeks to help all of us get through the holidays without just completely losing our fruitcake altogether.
Absolutely. So one thing is I've just launched over on Facebook, a private Facebook group for working moms who are healing anxiety and emotional overwhelm. And that's just basically a safe space
Mhm.
for us women to come together, for me to kind of sprinkle in some of these, things that you can apply into your life, encouragement, things that I've done to, in my life to help through my own journey with anxiety and emotional overwhelm. But what I am going to be doing coming up the week prior to Thanksgiving week is I am going to be doing a defunk your funk boot camp.
Oh my gosh, I just love the sound of that. How fun is this?
But basically, it's just going to be a 3-day in the Facebook group. So if you're not in there, go over to Facebook. You can find me at Millie Barra over there or on Instagram at Millie Barra, MILLIEBARRA. And there's a link in the bio where you can then go over into my Facebook group there and sign up for that. But basically, it's going to be 3 days where I go into a little bit deeper. And it's kind of a little bit of way of being accountable and creating some goals or a vision of what you want to do and how I can help support you through that. And then on Friday, I'm going to be doing a bonus training. So it's going to be lots of fun, and you get to see me in action about and a little bit more of a deep dive about what it looks like with working with me and how I work with my clients. So I'm really excited. It's the first year that I've done this, and
It's
I really think
awesome.
it's just needed. We all
Yeah.
are kind of coming out of this pandemic. And can I just take a second? How many people actually through the pandemic were a little bit relieved in the fact that they did not have to do the normal
Oh,
routine of going and
yeah.
seeing, and in some ways, I'm as sad as it was that we didn't get to celebrate in larger groups and things, but it kind of took some of the pressure off, and it was a slower pace.
Yeah,
So
I'll be the first one to raise my hand. And I know that might be kind of an unpopular thing, but I don't think that it was always so horrible that we had to slow down. We had to.
yeah,
It was not
yeah.
such a bad thing for certain situations.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
as we're coming back into more new normal of what
Yeah.
that looks like and gathering and things and this high paced stuff, I just wanted to help bring the awareness that you don't have to be the circumstance of the season. You don't
Yeah.
have to fall into that funk or that emotional overwhelm during the season. And
Yeah.
so I am doing that. So feel free to sign up. You don't have to do
Okay.
anything to sign up. You just have to join the Facebook group and you'll see it in the Facebook group and all the
And give us
information in
some
there will be
dates
coming.
on that. Millie, do you have dates?
Yes, that was going to be November 16th, 17th, and 18th
Okay.
with our bonus day on November 19th.
Awesome. Okay. And I'm going to put all of this information in the show notes. So in case you're driving or jogging or something and you don't have a way to write this down, I will put dates and all the information for you to get into Millie's group. I'm going to be there. I think it sounds like just a really fun way to, I don't know, connect with other moms and other women and people that are already
Right.
kind of seeing the same holiday commercials that I'm seeing, and partly getting excited, but partly starting to feel that little bit of holiday panic starting to set in, and how we're going to get through it all again this year. So
Right. And it's not about adding one more thing, right?
no,
We're not wanting to add one more thing, but it's just maybe readjusting some things
yeah,
and carving out maybe some time for you. Again,
yeah,
self-care is a big buzzword.
hmm,
And I mean, really, self-care is just making sure that your basic needs are met
yeah,
and making them a priority because
yeah,
we as moms and business women put a lot of other needs before our own. And then that is why we end up in burnout.
yeah,
And that's no way of living.
no,
So yeah, so this isn't about adding anything else. It's just about supporting you and helping you. And one last thing that I just want to add that I heard from another mentor of mine, she talks about how everybody needs to stay in their own dang lane.
oh gosh, isn't that the truth?
And that was just like, okay, so that's kind
Yeah,
of my last thing is like stay in your own lane, focus
yeah,
on you, and maybe work towards setting some healthy boundaries, learning to say no to the things that,
yeah. Say
don't
no.
say
No in
no.
November.
And if you're having a hard time saying no, that's kind of something I help do is getting to the root of the issue of why you can't say no.
Raising my hand again over here. If you're not watching on YouTube, you should be. My hand's been up about half of the podcast. So well, Millie, it is always a pleasure to have you. Like I said, like it or not, I'm going to drag you back. I hope you'll come willingly because we have so much fun. And like I said, there's just so many topics that are so relative to just life that, you help with just some things that I think impact all of us. I've told you I'm heavily in business, but when you're an entrepreneur, it all kind of weaves together anyway. So I just love that you always come with practical tips and you just feel real. You just feel like another mom trying to make her way like the rest of us are. So I appreciate you. You do great work and you're just fun. And I love you, Millie. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sarah. Have a great day.
All right. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.